Hi, I'm Dr. Nancy Crupi. I'm a biologist with 15 years of academic research experience internationally, and I've been working on a lot of different things, and ultimately I have also had to overcome a lot of personal challenges. I'm here to guide you towards awakening and ego death. Ego death and trauma healing are the most important tasks we need to accomplish today for humanity. The second season of the New Earth podcast is going to be specifically focused on giving you stories so that you see the trails and what kind of breadcrumbs you need to follow for you to reach your own ego death, for you to reach your own trauma healing, and for you to embody your highest self finally. Let's start. Hello, everybody. We're here today again for another episode of the New Earth podcast. And we are here today with Thembekile Dube. She is a healer and she's a divine healer, and she heals people through meditation and storytelling. She's also a writer, and she has recently published a book that is incredible about self-love, and she's going to be talking about that too. Hi, Thembekile.
Hi, Dr. Nancy. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Thank you for being here. So let's start with your story. I was very, very fascinated by your the entire thing. It's so like back and forth, and all the things you've done, and all the things you've been through, and all the realizations, like awakening and aha moments that brought you here. I feel like it was really, really great. And I want for people to be able to, for our audience to be able to enjoy your story and to learn from it, and to really get the same spot where you are, that you learned that you need to love yourself. So tell us a little bit what you do today and what your book is about, as you know, your final destination, and then we're going to be talking about how you got here.
Okay. So, right now I teach guided meditation at different studios as well as online. So, it's something that I love to do. I've wanted to do this probably for about 4 years, and I finally started actually practicing with different clients. And it's just amazing to see what happens during the sessions for them and for myself. So that's something that I love to do. And I'm also the author of this beautiful book, What is Good Hair? This book took me maybe just like 6 months to write, but the journey to get it in my hands took about 2.5 years. But it just came just on time. So it was published in May of this year. And now I'm working on continuing to sell it. And more than that, I just want it to find its way into the hands of people who need to hear the words that are in this book.
Wow, what is the book about exactly? Because what is good air doesn't sound like something that goes towards meditation. So, but instead it is. So, what is the book about?
Yes. So it is a science-based manual for taking care of natural hair. I'm a biologist, so I love the learning the science of hair, and that there's a science behind this. I feel like it makes it easier to grasp, that it's easy to handle. But beyond it, even the title good hair comes from a term that I often heard in my home growing up. And it was a term not to uplift me, but almost to compare my hair to the hair of others who were apparently good hair. And through this book, I learned how to practically apply self love into my life. And it started with my hair and forming a connection with my hair that has allowed me to not just love my hair, but love the entire being that I'm blessed to exist in.
Wow, this is incredible. Starting from hair, I feel like this is beautiful how the human mind can really react to certain things that can appear minor, but then can really challenge your identity and your feeling of being good about yourself, like feeling good about yourself. Like why would they not have good hair, right? And then from there, and obviously different people react in different ways to things, and people like you are those who bring the light to show others, no, you do have good hair. Like, like to show others how to overcome those things that appear minor, but for a kid, feeling constantly not enough for something that
Mhm.
is, this is my hair. What am I gonna do about it? Right. So that I can't really change it. And this is really specifically for African Americans in the United States, and especially now with interracial families, it's a huge topic. Like taking care of hair, it's a whole thing. And I'm not from Africa. I'm not Black, obviously, especially for how pale I am today. But but I feel like I also had something similar happening to me when I was growing up, because I am the only curly in my family, the only curly woman. Now you can't see my actual hair, but I'm curly. And nobody in my family is curly because I got it from my dad's family, and they tend to not have long hair. So I could barely see that they were curly as well. So I'm the only one with this long curly hair. And my mom didn't know how to take care of my hair as I was a kid. And so nobody knew how to take care of my hair. So for a long time, it became a blessing and a curse. I had these beautiful long hair, but I didn't know how to take care of them. And so to take care of it. And so I had to start doing things that, like, I started like wearing like something at night to like protect it, but nobody will tell me that. So these are things that Black women tend to do, but I had no idea about how to process that, how to do all those things, right? And so I feel like I had something similar in the sense that I felt different for my hair and not understood of all the struggle behind having to take care of curly hair. And this is something completely different than African hair, in the sense that I can like easily wash my hair, easily style it, easily. It's like it's very malleable. I can like, straighten it up very, very easily. This is like I don't even dry it anymore to do this, to braid it. So that's
Mhm.
it's a way of protecting my hair. So I don't even like dry it anymore. But so this is not comparable, but I feel like I understand your point here. And so
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about that. I feel like so you were was your mom Black too? Like that?
So, yes, my mother, actually, the woman who birthed me, transitioned when I was 1.5.
Okay.
So I grew up with my father and
Hmm.
my younger sister, Tondo, who is just about 15 months younger than me. And we moved to the US when I was 4 and my sister was 3. And at the time, my dad was married to this woman, and a nice woman, just kind and great things. But so she was an African American woman, and it it's
Yeah, don't
it just
worry.
brings up so many different things because it actually recently came something about this kind of came up again recently because we're still connected. I'm actually at her house while we're filming this. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's just interesting. But so when my sister and I arrived, she was the one taking care of our hair and would often tell me about how unmanageable my hair was. She was the one who first gave my sister and I relaxers to chemically straighten our hair. And after we got our first one, I was probably maybe 5 when we got the first one that I got. And then we just continued for years after that, continuing to get the chemical relaxers. Um, and yeah, I think even so, I would often hear that term like good hair because she made it clear to me that my hair wasn't considered good. And for me, I think this transpired into more than just speaking about my hair. Um, One thing that I'm now very proud of is my name, Thembekile. It means so much to me because my mother gave me that name, and I know what it means. My name means trustworthy. And
Mm.
even when I was young, growing up, we spent a lot of time with her and her family, and they didn't really understand my culture or who I was. So they never said my name or when they spoke about my name, it was like in a joke, laughing about it. And through my youth, I always felt so ashamed of my name. When I would have to say it in school, I'd always shorten it. And I would hope that the teacher wouldn't have to call my name because I just hated it. You know, I hated so many things about myself, even my complexion. And it was so interesting. The only time I disliked my complexion was around other Black people. But I felt fine in my skin around white people because they never really said anything about my complexion or my name or anything. So I feel like this term, good hair, just is symbolic of any term that has just been used to maybe just make you feel less than the God that you are, right? And um, you know, even as people say these different things, I know that it's not always with the intention of malice. And sometimes people don't understand the power of their words, but it reminds me of the book that Don Miguel Ruiz wrote, The Four Agreements, and how important it is to be impeccable with your words because your words hold so much power. So, this term, good hair, is just symbolic of our tendency to say things without thinking about the true depth of meaning behind what it is we're saying.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So, yeah, oh my gosh, this is so true. Like having all like this is something that I'm doing right now, by the way, like also to understand the meaning of my words, especially during the podcast, because I tend to, like I don't have time really. And so whenever I record it as then I post it as is in a sense. So like I just cut just minor things, but I don't have time to just record and re-record myself to say the words in the right way. And sometimes I just have to say things just to not stay silent, And so sometimes I don't actually like my words are not a real expression of how I truly think and what I really mean, but I can't cancel them. So really now I'm working on like really that because I also tend to use a lot of the word good and bad, but I don't actually mean that. It's just a framework that people use. And so I tend to use it to meet people where they're at. And then
Right.
I give the meaning of that, but then during the conversation, I keep being stuck with those words. And so I realize this is not actually what I mean. So I'm really in the process right now of changing my vocabulary, which is a whole process that, it's required for us to embody our true self, like it's like the layer that we put out and that must reflect our inner world, but it takes time to change it because it's something so ingrained in us and so ingrained in our culture. And as you're
Right.
saying, oftentimes people don't mean things with malice. They don't mean to hurt you, telling you that you don't, that your name is funny. They're kids, right? They're just make fun, but they don't understand that your name is attached to you. You can't change it. And maybe again, like it reminds you of your mom. It's something that you really care about. Or so
Right.
by dismantling that name, they're really, dismantling a lot of other concepts that are associated with love, self-love, and your mom and your roots. And so we don't realize how society is so attacks oftentimes, especially kids, attacks oftentimes our roots so deeply. And this is not random in the sense that you're a biologist too. From a biological standpoint, we all are like plants. And so as we are kids, right, we're competing for resources, we're competing for soil, we're competing for the sun, which is the attention of our teachers, the attention of our parents. We're competing for a lot of things. And so obviously we don't realize, but we intentionally, like we're built to kill the competition. We're built to make space around us so that we can put roots and grow, right? And unfortunately, in a field of grass, there is bad weeds, and again, there's like weeds that is spreads everywhere because it's very aggressive, and there's flowers and instead are very very kind and very mild and very nice, and so they take a longer time to stick to the soil because they have a lot of competition around them with people that tend to be very aggressive since a young age. And we have a lot of that in like, again, we have a lot of people like that in the world that are really like traumatized. They have deep and resolved trauma. And I talked about that in the first episode of this season. And deep unresolved trauma brings people to become very competitive against others because they are in fear mode. They are in the fight or flight modality. And so because of that, they think they have to kill the competition for them to stick. They don't realize that there is room for everybody, there is attention for everybody, and ultimately the real source of joy comes from the inside, not from the outside. So the people that live in a frugal mentality and they don't realize that abundance is really inside of you, especially, and you're an infinite source of things.
Right.
And they start to try and kill the competition. And this happens in a subconscious way. Like they don't know, kids don't know that they're like plants trying to kill the competition. They're just doing their thing, right? But these are genes and epigenetic signatures that have been passed through our lineage. And, it's not by random that we say that, kids behave like their parents, because from one point, it's the genetic signature that you can't do anything about. And from the other point is what they learn when they grow up. That's all epigenetics. That's all like really like how they grow and how their brain develops. And so then they become weeds that try to make sure that they kill everybody else around them so that they can sprout, they can put roots and they can grow. And so it's difficult for someone who is not like that to go past all of that hate that we perceive as hate, because we don't realize that people are just trying to compete against us because they believe we're better than them, because they believe we're a competitor for resources, because they believe that if they don't take away our roots, we are going to put roots there and they have no chances against us. So this is how it really works. But we as kids, people who are instead the flowers, they don't realize that. And so trauma takes you very far. And I like to think of people who are like flowers, like, like this thing that grows very thin but very tall. And when you finally go past all these weeds and all these grass, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm okay now. Like I understand that I'm just taller than them. Like this is just beautiful. Then once you have this upper vision of things, then it gets completely different. Like you don't perceive people as competitors, is that you start to spread your word, your pollen on the world, and through books and to teach people and other flowers how to bloom, how to get past the grass. Like I love what you're doing actually. So yeah, so tell me more about so bullying is really like a major problem, but it's also how the world works in a sense. The grass exists and gotta get past it simply.
Yeah.
But it also strengthens you a lot. Like you would have not become the person that you are today without all of that, because that allowed you to see yourself for what you truly are. So to realize that what you believed were vulnerabilities were strengths. And I love that your name means trustworthy. It's lovely.
Thank you.
So tell me more about that. So you said it's your mom. I'm sorry that your mom passed away when you were so young. So do you have any memory? I don't know, like you were 1.5 years old.
No, but one thing I did want to say, like going to your point of talking about flowers, in my book, even that's why like at the top, her hair is like green because I wanted it to symbolize a plant. And even in the very beginning of the book, I talk about how hair is a plant. And my hair's name is Plant. I just call her Plant in general. But and the importance of caring for our hair in the same manner in which you care for a plant, even especially in the gentleness that's required in taking care of our hair, because a lot of Black people think that our hair is tough so that it can handle being yanked and a lot of different things, but scientifically that doesn't make sense because the curlier the hair is, the more disulfide bonds it has. And those are bonds that are easily breakable. So it's very important to be gentle with that hair and treat it like a plant, to water it. That's one of the main reasons a lot of Black people struggle with hair growth, is because they don't realize that our hair needs to be watered on a regular basis. So it was just so interesting that you talked about a plant, because in the book, like, I constantly keep referring back to the hair being a plant and the ways in which you have to tend to it in the same way you would tend to a plant that you're growing in your house. So
That's
I love
perfect.
that.
Yes.
Yes, yes, I love that. Going back to my mom, I don't have any memories myself of her. Most of the time when I was growing up, I actually didn't have any pictures of her either. So I didn't really know what she looked like until maybe I was around 10 or 11. My dad had this binder with different pictures, and it also had some letters she had wrote, but the binder was like titled my little sister. So she ended up keeping the binder, and I didn't end up getting any of the pictures out of it. So but I did at one point see these different pictures, but still I didn't like get to know what she looked like until I recently went back home to South Africa last year, at the end of August. And I was there and I went to my grandmother's home, which is the same home that my mother was raised in. And I was able to sleep in her bed because she still had the same bedroom that was there. So it was very beautiful. And my grandmother kept this chest of things that belonged to my mom, different teddy bears and her writings from school. And I was just able to read through different letters she wrote. I also took one of her teddy bears. It was a teddy bear that my dad had bought her. So I have it now at home on my bed. And yeah, I'm just grateful that my grandmother was diligent in keeping those things for me and my sister. Yeah. It was just interesting because her mother passed when she was young, and she was, I think, less than 3. So she doesn't really have very many memories of her mother either. And it was interesting that that happened with me. But I'm so grateful to have her because she's a great mother to me.
That's amazing. And I think, this is beautiful. So many things. Because I feel like everything is really in our DNA, like in DNA, in our epigenetics. And so the way in which we react to things, all this season is about choice, really. It's about what kind of choice we make when we're placed in front of two different things, right? And
Mhm.
so your choice has been a lot of times in your life. I've been put through struggle. I've been put through, people that try to deprecate me in a sense, or like to dismantle my roots, to destroy my roots, or to bully me. And as a response, what you have done is you have been able to go past it, and not only go past it, but then your immediate response is, I want to make sure that other people that are in my same situation don't suffer the same things that I have suffered. And I think it's perfect that your grandma, in fact, it's in your blood, like your grandma did the same. Your grandma didn't have a mother for a long time, and she most likely didn't have any memory of her. And so she overcame that. And then now she's like, now that it happened the same to my daughter and to her daughter. So I'm going to make sure that they don't suffer the same things that I have suffered. And she has been very diligent in keeping, every one of us ultimately is a problem solver. There are people in the world that are problem solvers and people that are problem creators in a sense. And it all depends on how conscious we are in a sense, like whether we make choices that are sustainable, that are in the light, that are really aligned with the divine. And then we make those choices. And what we do is we heal. We heal because we are aligned with the divine. And if we are not aligned with the divine, if we are in our ego, then we make choices that are unsustainable, and those create trauma for others. Those create trauma for ourselves that we need to solve at some point. And so there's really these two things, these two way of choosing in the world. And it's really all about, like, everything in the world is like that is going on today is about this. It's about some people make choices that are sustainable and healing, and some other people make choices that are unsustainable and hurtful, and they're damaging others. And so it's really like in the same way is like what your grandma did, right? And so I think it's really beautiful that I think it's really in your DNA. You're the perfect example that this is really a DNA related thing. So you went back to Africa then, and you found finally, what you were looking for. And I love that you had that chance, because a lot of people don't get the chance to really experience what you have experienced. So I'm glad you have been able to. And where was it?
So I was born in Zimbabwe,
Mm-hmm.
and my family is from both Zimbabwe and South Africa. So for the first part of my stay, I stayed in South Africa, and it was my first time going back home by myself. I had went with my dad and my sister maybe when I was 14. And that was nice because that was the first time I had seen my grandmother since we had left when I was 4. So it was nice to do that when I was 14. But this time when I went by myself, it was just so different. I felt so at home and safe, even just by myself there in South Africa. And then after staying there for about 2 months, we went back home to Zimbabwe and we surprised my grandmother. We still knew the address because they've always lived at the same place. So we were able to surprise her and come to the house, and she was there, and it was just so beautiful how grateful she was that we were there, both my sister and I, in her home. Um, yeah, and it was just very touching because she also takes care of my cousins, like my other aunt's children. So the house is just full of children and love, and she's just the sweetest woman that I know. So it was just so enriching. I just felt so loved, and I feel like I've always felt very loved by her.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I think this is also, I mean, do you feel like this, like experiencing that kind of unconditional love has allowed you to react in the way in which you have reacted to bullying, to being bullied, to being told you are not good enough?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think when most people think about bullying, you think about it from like being a kid who's doing this, but I think the most bullying I received was from adults in my life. And when I was younger, before, because I didn't really know about my mom's family until I was maybe 11 years old, because I didn't find out that my mom passed until I was 9. So when I came to America, I learned that this woman who my dad was married to was my mom. And because after my mom passed, I was living with my grandmother, my dad's mom. So everyone in the house called her mom, but I knew that she was my grandmother. And then we came to America and I met this woman and I learned that she's my mom. And so I understood her to be my mom until they started getting a separation when I was about 8. And then that's when my dad was like, oh, that's not your mom. Like, that's not your mom anyway. Your mom is in Africa. And then it wasn't until a year later when my sister and I kept saying, oh, when is our mom coming? That he said, oh, your mom, like, she passed in Africa. And so that's when I learned that she did pass when I was 9. So then I started to connect with my mom's family maybe when I was like 11, and it started with her sister who was just a few years younger than her. And in my culture, your mom's sisters are also your moms, and you call them mamngane, which means my small mom, because my mom was the oldest sister. So even from that day, she always just called me her daughter, me and my sister her daughters, and just um, yeah, like I feel like just everyone in my mom's family has this deep, like unconditional love. They're very expressive with love. They say I love you a lot, which was very different from the dynamic I experienced with my father's family, and not really ever hearing I love you, and love being something that they felt like was just kind of understood rather than expressed. And so just hearing that from them, I think validated me in being able to be expressive in love and to just be comfortable loving openly. And I think it gave me a sense of worthiness before I found it within myself. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So you've seen reflected in them the fact that you were worthy, that you were lovable, that you were incredible, that someone thought you were important to them, that they really
Yeah.
loved you. And so that made you realize, like, hey, I actually am important. I'm not this little person that is not enough, that everybody tells me I am. I'm actually, someone thinks that I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
For
think
sure.
everybody should have that, like everybody
Mhm.
should grow up in that way. And there is also a lot of differences on how first and second and third children tend to be treated by parents, that oftentimes makes the first child be treated like perfect, the trophy child, right? This is like a form of abuse, but at the same time, like I have been the trophy child in a sense. And so I realize how like for like it can be really a form of abuse, but at the same time, if you grow within the trophy child, you have this feeling that you are important. People cannot take you down so easily because you are important, you are enough, you're incredible. And so having this feeling, it's so necessary for it then for you to grow and to overcome all the challenges that you go through in life, because we all go through challenges. Some people just stop early because they don't have the strength to overcome the weeds, and some
Mhm.
people instead keep growing. So it's not that some people are flowers and some people are not. It's that some people have the strength to go past the weeds and
Mhm.
become flowers, and some people don't. And so giving people that love that you're doing, that's what you're doing. You're really like pouring that love on people through your book, telling them you're enough. This what they're telling you about your hair is bullshit. Like you just have to take care of it, and you have to understand that it's a form of loving yourself. And I would like for you to share your hair in the camera because I love your whole thing.
I
I love
actually
it.
just watched it this morning and did it. It's like I just always
Seriously.
thank you. I think especially one of the easiest ways to love your hair, or the way that I found to love my hair, is to not expect anything of it. I feel like one of the biggest reasons I used to fight with my hair was because I expected it to behave in a certain way or to be like someone else's hair. And when I finally just accepted my hair for who she is and said, like, you lead the way. I'm going to follow your instruction, like if you feel like being a little wild today, like let's do that, and just allowing, I don't know, like to communicate with my hair, because I feel like even my body communicates with me when I eat something. She tells me if this was beneficial or if this was not. So, and my hair speaks to me. Like if I'm trying to do something and it's not doing it, maybe my hair is saying it's not comfortable with doing something like that and I should try something else. So, yeah, I just try to continue every day to foster a deeper connection with myself through my hair. And I actually recently made this video of me washing my hair. And as I'm washing my hair, like I'm also smiling. And I like captioned the video, making love to myself through my hair. Because every time I touch my hair, it feels like I'm making love to myself. Like I'm just pouring so much love into me with every touch to my hair. So it's a very beautiful experience.
Yes, it's like a Reiki session, basically. That's really what it is in the end. And we do all, everything can be love or can be poison. It just depends on how you do that. And unfortunately, we live in a society that has completely disconnected us from the actual function of things, from
Mhm.
shampoos to food to lotions, everything. Like I also interviewed someone else at work that has a skincare line that has something like a similar kind of thing. So really, we all need to go back to understand that we are plants. So we are plants, our hair are plants, our liver is a plant, our heart is a plant. Everything inside of us is really a plant. And I always mention my book because plants are fractals and we are fractals, and every organ in our body is a fractal. So what is a fractal? A fractal is something that grows in a certain direction based on what kind of things it has around, in a sense. It's like a sponge. And so if you give to your body things that are bad for it, then what do you think is going to happen? You are poisoning yourself. And oftentimes it's not even that we intentionally poison ourselves, it's that we don't intentionally love ourselves. And by not intentionally loving ourselves, we are allowing things to be just random. And random means in a capitalistic society, random is just you being blindfolded about the fact that someone is making money out of your health. And so
Yeah.
unfortunately it comes down to that. And so if, like in Italy we say, when the cat is away, the mice dance, like,
Mhm.
so basically if you're not paying attention to your health, those
Right.
who want to take advantage of it are going to do that. And so if you don't intentionally take care of yourself and love yourself, what happens is simply that you're just going to go random. But that is not really random, because random should balance it out, everything, right? Because random
Mhm.
means you should get some love and some things that are not love and they're poisonous. But in a society where if you don't pay attention and you're the cat, the mice dance, then the mice are going to dance on that. And so they're just going to basically become a victim that people feed off of. And so it's
Right.
important that we keep, we take care of our light, we take care of ourselves in so many ways by intentionally taking care, intentionally loving ourselves from our hair. And it's just, like sometimes massaging our scalp is really so important for hair growth and for the scalp itself, like for the healing of the scalp itself. And so
Mhm.
all of that is important. But oftentimes you're just like, yeah, blah, blah, like do this and then wash your hair very briefly, and you do this every day, like, and shampoo the cheapest or the one that is like, looks like okay, and you don't
Yeah.
actually look what kind of ingredients he has. And
Mhm.
so many people do that. So many people do that for so long that it's just like, yeah, hair, what is it? Like, I don't care. I can go to, get it blow dried and I'm good. I look pretty, right? But
Yeah.
looking pretty is different than being healthy.
Yeah.
Learned this at this point. And so it's really, it's not just about being healthy either. It's like, as you're saying, when you pour love, you're telling yourself, when you take time to take care of yourself and you take time for every piece of your body, when you take time for it and to really heal, then you tell yourself, it's your highest self telling yourself, you're important.
Right.
You are important. You are worth it. You are worth of time. You are worth of taking the time for just your hair. Yes. We live in a
Mhm.
society that instead tries to chip away pieces of worth every day. And you go to work and your boss is telling you that you should just shut up and work and you should just do
Yeah.
your task and perform your task and not have a weekend and not have a break and not have a life and not have, and you just simply are sacrificing yourself for people who just manipulate you to believe that you're
Yeah.
not worth it. And this
Right.
goes as far, because you start as a kid. There are
Mhm.
people like you who react and then
Mhm.
can tell others, hey, we are worth it, right? And there are people who don't react and they start getting into this vicious cycle and spiral of then becoming unworthy in a sense, feeling unworthy, and then becoming tools for others. Because if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't love yourself, you don't think you're worthy, then you just become a tool in someone else's plan and machine, and people they want, and they just give you orders and you just do that. So that's, if you all will love ourselves, that would already be an incredible, like nothing bad will happen in the world if we all will love ourselves. Because whenever you receive instructions that don't go towards yourself, and you're like, wait a minute, if I do this task that you're asking me, then all of these negative effects are going to happen on me and on the people that I love. I don't want to do that. And so if we
Yeah.
all love ourselves, nobody will ever work in a corporation. Like, seriously. And so it's really important what you're doing, and like the fact that you're using the good hair as starting point for this incredible journey that you had, that I really love. And so tell me more about how you got into the meditation instead, because this is not just about self-love as taking care of your body through hair, but also you told
Mhm.
me that you now teach meditation and guided meditation. So tell me more about that.
Yes. So I started meditating when I was in college, and I would use different things, different apps that I would find to do meditations, and it was nice, but I think it only took me so far. And eventually, I started saying to myself that I want a voice that feels like home as they're guiding me. And because I didn't find that anywhere, I started guiding myself. And I would just make the meditation and record it and then listen to it back later. And it was just interesting because as I was doing the meditation, recording it, I was in a meditative state. I knew that I was receiving guidance in what I was saying. And so I wasn't able to like do what I was saying to do during it until I sat down to listen to it. So it was a healing practice for myself. And then I shared it with some of my friends, and they're like, wow, you should really do this. And so I would lead some for us in group sessions. And then I started sharing them on my YouTube, and the way people responded, I was a little in shock, maybe because I think even at the time I still questioned my worth to an extent. And I think especially when I try something new, sometimes I question my knowledge on the subject and if I know enough to be able to be effective in helping somebody if I'm just starting. And the feedback I constantly kept getting was that it was more than enough. And so I think it took me just continuing to believe in myself more and more before I finally was able to attract an opportunity that, yeah, because I really attracted that opportunity that led me into a studio to be able to guide people in person. And for me, meditation has definitely been a place where I was able to heal my mind. As I was learning to love myself, I still constantly had a lot of thoughts in my mind all the time. And I never really felt present in the moment. I was always in the past or in the future becoming anxious. Yeah, or in the past getting depressed about things that happened back there. And when I started meditating, I also learned that meditation can look like so many different things. It can look like just standing in front of my house and just watching the cars go by. It can just look like going on a walk and just being present as every footstep hits the ground. It can look like me sitting in my room and listening to my sound bowl, or a lot of different things. But as I continued to practice, I just started feeling an overwhelming sense of peace, of being at the right place at the right time, of just being one. Like, with every breath, I just continue to feel God like move in me. And I feel my connection to everything, to the trees, to the birds, to everything. And so when I guide people in meditation, my hope and my goal or my intention is to guide them to their one home that they'll exist in for their whole life, which is their soul. Because I feel like a lot of times we have learned to, like you said, like go outward in search of resources and different things. But when you come inward, you find that home that I think we're always constantly searching for in people, places, and things.
Yeah, this is so true. That really is about alignment. It's about really realigning with your inner truth, with your inner essence. And once you do that, that's when you feel that feeling of joy that you're really looking for the whole time. That's what we do.
Mm.
We look for joy. We look for that feeling of what is joy. Like you can be joyful only if you feel safe enough that you can allow yourself to feel joyful. So it's
Mhm.
ultimately comes down to feeling that you can exist. Nobody's trying to take things away from you, that you're safe, that the world is not hostile. So once you are in that mindset, and it comes down to also receiving that unconditional love. Once you're exposed to unconditional love, then you feel safe. And if you feel safe, that feeling of joy can emerge. And I love your story, and I feel like really part of the reason why I'm so also capable of being joyful and being so independent in my feelings comes
Mhm.
down to that as well. Because as a kid, I also have been exposed to a lot of unconditional love, and that allows me to feel this joy. So I understand what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
it's really true. And I think the world is suffering really lack of love, because even kids or adults or people who bully others or who try to take them down, or because they feel like they need to compete for resources, ultimately they do that because they don't feel safe. They feel like they need to make space to do things because there is not enough for everybody. They need to survive. That means that
Mhm.
they don't feel safe. They feel like the world is hostile. They're not taken care of. There's
Right.
nobody taking care of them. There's nobody loving them. And so this lack of love, this lack of feeling you're perfect as you are. Because if you're not perfect as you are, then you need to struggle for you to become perfect, or for you to destroy those who you think are perfect, because people can see that. I feel like we don't realize, people that have that kind of joy don't realize that um, others see that.
Yeah.
We don't realize that all of those who have not received the same kind of love, and it's not our fault, but they
Mhm.
can see that we just keep going, and we have this charge and this joy inside of us, and they sing, and they're like, how is she doing that? I don't understand where this is coming from, because I don't have this. I feel like unsafe and in a hostile place all the time. I feel like I have to. So what is she doing? And I feel like a lot of times these kinds of people, that this is the deep and resolved trauma. So a lot of times these people believe that the reason why you are like you are is because you don't know what they know. You don't know that the world is hostile. You don't know that you should watch out. You don't know that. So they know better. But they always have this feeling that is like, maybe it's not it. Maybe she just has something else that I don't have. And so that's how they develop imposter syndrome. And then they try to take you down in so many ways. So we don't realize that all of these oftentimes attacks that we receive are often not random, especially when we receive them from people of our same kind. As you said, like I felt the same, like I felt this kind of bullying more among Black people than among white people, because we feel like we're competing against our same kind, while, and again, kind, like we're all the same kind, but just try to like understand where I'm coming from. Like, I feel like white people feel like they compete against white people, and black people feel like they compete against black people. So for them, you are a competitor. While competition between white and black people is completely a different ballpark. So
Right.
it's really like you don't feel that kind of competition at that level. You feel it more at the political level at that point.
Right.
So as a kid, it makes sense, right? But we don't realize that we don't know that all the people around us can see. She has this joy, she has this light, she has this motivation. How does she do that? And that's why people try to take you down. This has happened to me so many times in my life. It happens constantly. And we don't realize, because when you are like this, you are the kind of person that are always forward. You're always moving, doing your own thing independently from others. And so, because it's like, imagine you're on a roller coaster and you're always sitting on the front spot. And
Yeah.
so while you're on the front spot, you don't see anybody else behind you. So you keep going and going. You're like, yeah, I'm having fun. But there are a lot of people behind you that is like, how is she first?
Yeah.
Why is she first? I have to get that spot. And so we don't see all of that. We don't see all of these things that happen behind us, because we're the ones that just keep going. And we're like, yeah, I'm having fun. And this joy is such a huge propellant for growth and for success in life. It's what really pushes you far.
Mhm.
I'm reading a book, and part of the introductory, the premise is that, I've been also fed a lot with this joy, with these things that a lot of times in my life, um, I feel like I wasn't supposed to overcome certain obstacles like naturally, but I did, because I didn't know that those obstacles were impossible to overcome. Because I didn't know, and I had all that charge, I've done it anyways. So you see that there is that thing of the beetle. The beetle is not supposed to fly, but because the beetle doesn't know that he's not supposed to fly because it's too heavy for its
Yeah.
wings, the beetle flies anyways. And he makes a huge effort to fly because it's like, it doesn't know that he's not supposed to, but it flies. And so I feel like people like us, like do the same kind of thing all the time. We have this joy. And we're like, I mean, I don't know, like this has been such a, what you've described is such a difficult path, but you were just doing your thing, right? And so we
Yeah.
oftentimes don't realize we had very hostile lifetimes, like we had a lot of things we had to overcome, and not even know who your mom is, and then learn that she died. These are major trauma in for most people that just stop them from doing it. And for some other people, this is just one of the many things that happen in their life. And so it's not about what actually happens to you, what kind of trauma you go through. Is about having that joy, having that sense of self-worth, having that sense of knowing that you are perfect, that you're supposed to exist, that you're supposed to overcome things, that the divine expects for you to overcome those obstacles and to shine your light on the world. Once you have that certainty, then you just go, you just keep going and going and going, and it just comes from within, as you said.
Okay.
Do you guide, like, what is something that you really like to focus on during your meditations?
Um, I like to focus on allowing them to feel whatever. I do a lot of visualizations.
Hmm.
So I know that during a lot of them, I will guide them into visualizing what their heart space feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that intuition is in your heart. And to me, intuition is God's voice directing me, or my ancestors or spirit or any guide that I have speaks to me through my heart and my intuition, like my first, or what my grandmother calls your first mind. Like, and she is saying, like, when you make a decision, always go with your first mind because your first mind is always correct. And I feel like that's your intuition. So I do visualizations, helping them visualize what this space feels like and what it looks like. And I believe the more that they see that and immerse themselves in what it feels like, they're able to carry that feeling with them outside of the meditation. And because my goal in helping people meditate or guide them in this way is that they learn how to heal themselves. Because, like you're saying earlier about how when you don't love yourself enough, you're able to fall victim to society's way of like poisoning you through different things. And it was interesting because I became a biologist because I wanted to become a doctor and I wanted to become a surgeon, actually, a pediatric cardiovascular surgeon, because I love the heart and the heart is my favorite part of the body. So, and I love children. And so that was my plan. But while I was at university, I would work at a children's hospital and I also shadowed at a heart hospital. And we would see these patients. I saw them in the operating room and I would see them afterwards. And there was one specific day when we went and saw a patient who had just had their operation a day prior. And she was fine. She was young, like she was just 34 and slim even. I just, and I just listened as the doctor was checking on her and said she's doing fine. And as we left the room, I was like, oh, like, doctor, do you think that she would ever have to come back to get another operation? And he said it with like no like thought, like, oh yeah, definitely. Like she's for sure gonna be back in here. And in that moment, I don't think he realized what he did to me. And I don't even think I fully realized until maybe a year later. But in that moment, I realized the kind of healing I wanted to do was healing at the source and not putting a band-aid over something so that people were going to have to continue to come back. And I feel like that's the thing with medicine right now is that it puts you in a cycle of, for one, not having enough trust in yourself to believe that you are able to heal yourself. And then for two, being so dependent on the opinions of others that you drown out the voice that's within you, directing you into healing yourself. So I chose to do guided meditations because it helped me heal myself. And it helped me learn that voice that constantly speaks to me about the state of my being. And I want to help others find that voice so they don't even need me, let alone a doctor or anybody else to direct them in healing themselves.
I love it. I definitely love. We are definitely on the same page. I'm also a biologist, as you probably know, and I also I realize how ineffective Western medicine is to the point that I'm starting a whole project that I call conscious healthcare, and it's really a matter of understanding that we need to go to the source of problems because people. And this the system is designed this way, unfortunately. Like a couple months ago, like a month and a half ago or so, I had some issues at my back. And so I went to my doctor and I was like, I have some issues. I'm having all of these issues on my back, on my leg. I'm having all of these things. And I knew they were due to overwearing things, due to like things that I do. And it's like, okay, I have all of these issues. And I went and the doctor ordered me to do x-rays. And I'm like, but you're not going to see any of it, any of the problems that I have to x-ray. Do the x-rays. And I did the x-ray and I had to pay for it. Obviously, the result is nothing because you can't see anything that has to do with discs and like inflammation or like tendons on the x-rays that only show you the bones. And then I'm like, so, okay, but can I just do an MRI, for example, like something more that actually shows me what the problem is? And he's like, no, the insurance companies have a whole process that you have to follow. You have to do the x-rays first. So basically the first, and then after they received the x-rays, because there was nothing to show, nobody told me that they had the results. And so what was the result of that? That I waited for a month without doing anything to know what the result was, or at least the doctor didn't tell me to do anything because, for a month, which is the part in which you can prevent people from developing a disorder that needs surgery or that needs pills. That
Right.
portion, which is the point in which you need to have the preventative care, the system is designed to waste that time. Is designed to waste the time that you should dedicate to prevent getting a disease. And then after that month passed, and luckily I'm a scientist, and so I did my own things, and I kind of like started doing my own like cold cold things. Like I bought like a cold packs and stuff like that to put on my back, and so I kind of like resolved cold therapy, sorry. So I did my own cold therapy, and I got some supplements, some things that helped my collagen building. So I did a lot of things in that month. The doctor stayed completely silent. I did a lot of things, as always. I've always done. But if it wasn't for my choices of healing myself, they would have left me for a month without doing anything. And initially, because I didn't realize what actually was going on, the first 3 weeks, I didn't actually do anything. I just waited for them to let me know. And it worsened a lot. So I started having a lot more issues, because then if you have like, probably I have like a bulging disc. If the bulging disc presses on nerves, then you start having a lot of other issues, because you're pressing on peripheral nerves. And so I started having nausea, constipation, a lot of things that had to do with nerves that were being pressed. And as soon as I started doing cold therapy, then I realized everything was getting released. And I was like, this is what it was. But if I had to wait for the doctor and for the Western healthcare to let me know what is going on and what I'm supposed to do to prevent something that then, because if I get a herniated disc, then you need surgery for that. It's like a permanent problem that you need pills chronically for your whole life. Then they waited and they left me for a month without telling me anything, until I went there and I told them, hey, I'm getting worse. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And still nothing, like they didn't tell me to do anything still. So it's like a system designed really to prevent people from going to the source and from avoiding surgery. Like you should try to avoid surgery. You should try to use that preventative care as much as possible so that you don't get surgery. And ultimately, why do we get sick? We get sick due to stress. The great majority of things are due to stress, and stress is due to misalignment. Yes, it is due to external factors, in the sense that like it's our society that is stressful, but also if you align, then like it's the same thing as feeling joy, then that stress kind of goes away. You can reach peace through meditation. That's why you can reach peace through meditation, because it's a way of realigning, of being present. And so when you do that, then you're removing the sources of stress that will lead you to have a pathology. So basically, you have become a surgeon through meditation. Instead of being a surgeon through a scalpel, you're basically doing surgery to people before they need a physical surgery. You're doing an energetic and spiritual surgery. I love this. Incredible.
Yes, that was definitely my goal. And because I've been also working on doing this as a business. And one thing that I was saying is healing hearts without ever having to touch the flesh. Like, I don't feel like I need to touch you in order to heal you, that you have the strength, and just kind of constantly reminding people of the power they have within themselves to do this. And even like when you're speaking about surgery, it's so interesting because right now I feel like more than ever, society's on this like pro surgery thing where almost everything people just want to resolve with the surgery. Like, I'm overweight, let me get a surgery. Oh, this happened, surgery, like surgery, yay, surgery. And I've had to have surgery. I tore my ACL in 2016. And I remember like when it happened, and I didn't want to have the surgery, but I felt like, okay, this might be beneficial. I do want to be pretty active with my knee, and I decided to get the surgery. And 3 years later, almost exactly to the date, I retore it. Exactly, almost exactly 3 years. It happened just like a couple days after my birthday the first time, and That's what happened 3 years later, a couple days after my birthday. And when it tore again, I said I wasn't going to get surgery. I just did physical therapy, and I feel like now my knee is stronger than it ever was. And then again, and I've been like running, I've been able to do all the things that I had ever done before, but it kind of just reminded me of the place that I felt like I was in when I was in the doctor's office. And he was just kind of speaking to me in a way that made me feel like my body wasn't strong enough. Like, you won't be able to do this. This is what you won't be able to do if you don't get the surgery. You won't be able to, you won't be able to, you won't be able. And I was like, okay, let me do it. And then when I tore it again, I had to go back to him. He tried to say the same things to me, but I just had so much confidence in my body that I said, I know what's good for me and I'm not going to be convinced. Like, I know how to take care of myself and I know this body is strong enough to overcome anything. So, yes, it might have ruptured this, but she's strong enough to figure it out. So I let it go, and it has just been so much better for me in not having done that again.
Oh, this is incredible. I'm loving this story. I didn't even know about this. This is incredible. I really believe that resolving things with surgery is really useless in a sense because everything is a reflection of our inner world. And so if you have obesity and you go and remove that like additional extra fat, or even if you move it to a different part of your body, you're still the same person. Like the issue that caused you to accumulate fat in that part of your body or in other parts of your body is still there. And it has to do with this is really like I realize how different we are. Like when I start overeating sometimes, like stress causes me to overeat sometimes. That's one of my responses. And immediately now I'm so like I take care so much of my nutrition that immediately, as soon as I drift from my usual self, I can feel it. So I realized because our bodies are like antennas at the same time, and everything is consciousness. Our adipose tissue is consciousness too, and things get diluted. And if you have a certain amount of fat in your body, is a complete you can attract completely different frequencies, and you are a completely different antenna if you don't have that fat. So as soon as I start like gaining weight, or I can feel that I'm different. I am a different person. I'm not the me that is reactive. I'm not the me that is, I'm the me that tends more to depression or to, so, and that's the tamasic energy, in fact. Like in Ayurveda, the tamasic, like this is in yoga, sorry, the tamasic energy is more the kind of like the energy of depression in a sense, in which we say we are more down and we're lesser dynamic. And so that energy is really kind of like the one that you want to overcome. You don't want to be stagnant. And so there is no way that a surgery can change that in a sense. Yes, there are situations in which surgery is necessary because you get into these loops in which people accumulate hundreds of pounds and then it becomes really difficult. At the same time, it's really like important to tell people right away, look, if you eat more and you're going to become a different person, not just aesthetically, your mind is going to be different. You're going to start getting to this. And it's about gravity. It's about gravity. The heavier we are, that's why obesity is a comorbidity for aging and mortality, higher mortality, because it's about gravity. Gravity pulls us down. And the heavier you are, the more gravity you experience. And so the more you go down easily. We make a hyperbole. I say this all the time. We are born and then we fly up and we roam around the planet for a while and then we start decaying and going down again. And everything really depends on gravity and how your body is made. And so if you have a certain body composition, gravity is going to act on you in a different way. And if you have more fat, and what is fat? Fat is tissue that is not actively contracting, is not actively doing a lot of things. So it does things that are often negative for our body, even though it has some positive effects, such as it acts as a neutralizer for a lot of toxic things, in a sense, also chemicals like pharmaceuticals, because you have more space in your body to disperse toxic things as well, and it goes in your fat instead of going in your liver, for example. And so it becomes more of a way of like also kind of suppressing, like avoiding for things to be too toxic for you. However, you're still intoxicating your body just in a different place that you don't usually have control of, that you don't contract, that there are no muscles in there. There are no nerves that you can intentionally use. It's all involuntary. It's all an involuntary part. So imagine your whole body can be made of mostly voluntary things, which are your muscles in your brain, or mostly involuntary things. So if your body is made mostly by involuntary things, you're a different person because you don't have control. It's your body carrying you around. It's not the other way around. And
Right.
so there's no way a surgery can change your mindset, because then your mind changes, everything changes. Obviously, if you remove that fat, the things in your blood are going to change. And as a consequence of that, you're also going to change. But if you don't change your mindset first, you're going to regain that weight. You're going to return your ACL. You're going to things are going to rehappen exactly as they did, because the lesson that you had to learn was not get a surgery, but was there is a problem here. If you're accumulating fat, is because most likely you're eating too much, or you're depressed, or you have a mechanism, an inner engine that responds with overeating when you're under stress, or you're under abuse, or like there's so many reasons. Sometimes accumulating fat is a way for our body to somatize things that we go through. Like if you go through a lot of stress, if you have a lot of trauma and we don't know how to disperse all of that stress, then you accumulate fat so that we have more space to disperse that. So there is a reason for things. And so once you learn that reason, then you solve the problem, right? And so for you, the reason why was that your knee was not strong enough, or your legs were not strong enough. And so if you exercise and if you practice and if you strengthen your legs, this is not going to happen again. Or maybe it will, I don't know. But like at that time, the problem was your legs were not strong enough. And obviously this is a vicious cycle, like the surgery, because surgeries don't make you stronger, they make you weaker, because then you have to heal the injury that you torn it first, and then you also added an injury on top of it, an injury made with scalpels and cuts and things that you need to heal, an inflammation in that area that certainly is not good for healing, and it takes longer and it weakens things. And so you're just really adding things on top. And so this is not to say don't go get surgery. Ask your doctor. I can't give you medical advice. At the same time, just try to understand that really, like, oftentimes you have this magic pill or magic solution, which is go get surgery. Like this is not how it works. And we talked about also breast implants and different kinds of things in this podcast, in which really we can see how Western medicine has really kind of changed the dogma that of what healing is supposed to be, in a way that is not effective and efficient. It's just drifting from the truth. It's just drifting from the only thing we should do, which is self-healing. We should regain control of our body and go to the source of the problem. And once you do that, then you're like, oh, I have solved the problem. And if it happens again, I know exactly what to do. I know what the problem depends on. Like now, I don't know whether this happens to everybody. Every time I go to a doctor, I tend to like research a lot. And I'm a scientist, I'm a coach, so I do a lot of things. And so when I go to my doctors, usually my doctors are like, so what do you think you should do? Like they don't even tell me. They don't even tell. So what do you think you have? So what are your symptoms? So what do you think about this? They ask me to diagnose myself. And
Yeah.
ultimately they don't even tell me what kind of therapy or anything. And I do therapies on myself and I heal. But if it was for them, it will just be like nothingness, like just exams that make no sense. So
Yeah.
like I love your story, and I love that you have become a surgeon anyways,
Yeah.
just in different ways. And I think we don't, and this is part of my mission, because the population is being indoctrinated to see the doctors, with their white coat and everything, and, like as people who have studied a lot and they know more than you, and you have to do the reverence, and like, bow to them, and that's the opposite. A lot of doctors are actually just drug dealers for pharmaceutical companies. And so we don't realize that the real healers are those who decide, oftentimes to get paid a lot less, but to really go to the source of the problem instead of getting paid millions of dollars per year to not solve your problems and for you to go back to them every time. And so there is really, we need to like reestablish the real references and to re-understand what the real doctors here are. You know, like once you
Yeah.
understand that, then you're like, oh, I flipped it around. I had it completely all like the other way around. So once you understand that, then people starting going to the real doctors and start really understanding who they should support the most, who they should give more respect to. And we all deserve respect. I'm just talking about societal, hierarchies and social norms that don't make any sense. But in an egoic society, people tend to see the doctor with the coat. It's just a manipulation, like made by pharmaceutical companies, but the real surgeons, the real healers, and obviously this is not a generalization, but like people that really help are those that want to go to the real source of the problem. And the real source of the problem is trauma, ego, uh, like stress, misalignment. These are the sources, and everything stems from there. And if you go to the source, you don't need to go to get a surgery. You don't need to go get a pill. You don't develop metabolic disorders that, keep you for life on insulin. You don't need to do all those things. So let's go back to the source. I love what we just did today together, which is to bring people to understand that they're important, that they have to love themselves, and that they really they have the power to self-heal. So do you want to tell us more about your what you do exactly, where people can find you, if you have any, where they can find your book?
Yes, yes. I did want to make one point about what you said. Like, I'm so grateful that that you just shared that because even for myself, I think for a while, that's why I was playing it small, was because I had plans on wearing that white coat. And I felt like at one point I saw that white coat as an authority, like as a great divine healer until I learned that it wasn't healing that they were doing. But even when I decided I wasn't going to wear that coat, I still felt like I wasn't enough because I didn't have that. So it just was very validating to hear what you just said. So I do appreciate that. As far as the work that I do teach at a studio in Michigan, actually, in Trenton at Lotus Wellness. That is where I teach classes on Thursdays. I'm also teaching them online at trustandlove.net. The website should be available by the time the episode comes up. And my book, What is Good Hair, is available on that platform as well as at Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Amazon, anywhere where they sell books, you'll find this. Yes, yes, that's me. I'm also on Instagram and YouTube. YouTube and Instagram, my name is Fourctee, which is symbolic of my hair, which is the texture 4C. And yeah, I foresee great things coming our way.
Yes, me too. This is amazing. I really love this episode, and I think it's, everyone is special. And I think in this case specifically, I really love that we went from so many different things, like from Africa to good hair to bullying to becoming a surgeon in a way that is completely different than what society tells us a surgeon should look like and should be doing. And so I hope that people really understand that concept and start turning away daily from Western healthcare and turning more towards holistic care and healers that truly are the real healers of society. And so I really hope that people understand it as soon as possible so that they can start self-healing and stop being on pills and things that really are not good for them and that keep them stuck.
Yes. And definitely, one thing that I share in my book, like when we're talking about bullying, is I wrote a letter at the end of the book. to mothers and fathers and beauticians. And I just speak about how it's important to be mindful of your words to children because they are the things that take root in their mind before they have the ability to form their opinions of themselves. So I just, and I have different affirmations in here about that and things that they can say in place of the things they've already been saying to them. And so I just hope that this is able to heal the hearts of the guardians and the children.
Yes, yes, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and for your wisdom and for telling us your journey, your story that I think is going to be useful really to everybody. And thank you guys for listening. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode. And I'm going to put all of these contacts information and all the website and the link to the book, but you can find it also in a store that I love going to bookstores as well. But you guys are going to find all these links, and thank you again, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.